Hey, what's up, guys? This is Grayson the Dean 221 Nichols, and I am doing this week's episode of High Stakes Poker hand review with you all. Been enjoying doing these each week, and I believe there's one more episode left with this group of players, and then they'll be shuffling it up and get some new people out there. But in the meantime, we still got the usual suspects from the last few weeks that we've been looking at these hands, and today's hand is a really cool one between Bryn Kenney, one of the best Hold'em players in the world, as we all talked about, and Brandon Stevens, a regular in these games. So they've been using a straddle most of the game, but for some reason there was no straddle in this one. And Bryn starts off the hand with Ace Jack here, and he raises under the gun to 2,500, and Brandon three bets to 8K. I think Brandon can go either way in this spot. I think his three bet is fine. You know, one of the advantages would be that it kind of thins the field and it gets the other people out who might have something like King Jack or Ace 10 offsuit, some hands that might be dominating him that would otherwise tag along for the initial bet. So I think it's okay in that respect, but I do also think Bryn is going to call with a ton of hands that dominate him, and he might get into some really peculiar spots, deep stack post flop against one of the toughest Hold'em players in the world. So I think I probably would have preferred calling in Brandon's seat here, but I don't mind that he's mixing it up, especially because I believe he's perceived to be probably the tightest player at the table. So him mixing in some random three-bet bluffs in spots that are close to a call seems pretty reasonable. So, well, like I said, I probably would have called, but I think it makes some sense for him here. So everyone else folds, and the action comes back around to Bryn, who calls, of course, it is Ace Jack. Flop comes 10-7-8 with two diamonds, and this is where things get really interesting. So Bryn checks, of course, to Brandon, who then c-bets, like we expect, of course, here, 10,000. And like I said, this is where it gets kind of weird. Bryn goes ahead and check raises to 35K here. Not a great spot for Brandon, but I think it's a clear-cut call. He mentions after the hand he wishes he had repopped on the flop. Not sure to what extent that would help him here, other than just folding out some bluffs from Bryn like this. I think his hand with the gut shot straight draw, top pair, backdoor flush draw feels like a clear-cut call here. Not saying it's not a gross spot still, but I don't think re-raising makes a lot of sense. So I feel like this is a clear-cut call in Brandon's shoes, which he does. And this is where it gets even weirder. So the turn is a jack. So, you know, some people are looking at this like, oh, Bryn just hit top pair, right? Top pair, top kicker. But again, we're dealing with one of the top players in the world, and this guy really understands that his jack is not useful. This is not going to be a hand that gets a showdown. He is looking to be bluffing Brandon. And like I said, repping the 9, that is. And like I said, pre-flop, Brandon was viewed as one of the tighter players at the table, right? So when Bryn gets 3-bet by Brandon, especially in earlier position, he's kind of putting Brandon on overpairs a lot, you know, stuff like aces, kings, queens, right? So Bryn is now looking to represent a 9, and he is going to try to take Brandon off of his hand, essentially, make him fold aces, kings, queens, right? He doesn't think Brandon would ever 3-bet pre-flop with anything that holds a 9 in it, because he would just call with 9s. And Brandon's not the type to be 3-bet bluffing a 9-7 suited pre-flop. So Bryn feels pretty confident here that Brandon does not have a 9. So this is where he eyes up a really big bluff, essentially. So he starts by betting somewhere around 70K, I believe, here on the turn. 69K, nice. And action's now to Brandon, who you have to assume is usually going to call here, obviously knowing that at the bare minimum, he has 4 outs at the nuts with his boat outs on the river. So Brandon, sure enough, calls. And the river's a totally innocuous 3 of spades, I believe. Yep, there it is. And Bryn kind of sized this up at the beginning, you know, like, and I actually miscount. I apologize. I put that Brandon has 100,000 more than he started the hand with. So Brandon actually at this point had around 200K and change left. So Bryn was betting most of Brandon's stack at this point. It wasn't a pure all-in, but Brandon would have had around 50 or 60K left. So that is inaccurate. I should say Brandon has 220K left. Either way, back to this bet. You know, Bryn has really sold that he has a hand like 8-9, like ace-9 that was semi-bluffing, 9-10 that had like, you know, value on the flop. He's really strongly repping this 9. On top of that, it's hard to figure out what Bryn's bluff range might look like outside of something like, you know, like a 5-6 of diamonds or something, like just like small diamonds that missed seems like the only thing that really makes much sense here for him to be bluffing. I suppose Bryn can maybe have like an ace queen of diamonds too, perhaps. But other than that, it's really hard for him to have many bluffs here. So I think he very effectively reps the 9 in this spot. And I think he also effectively targets, granted Brandon didn't have the overpair in this spot. I think he does still effectively target that range, right? The idea is that Brandon cannot call with those hands, aces, kings, queens, right? So I think Bryn did a good job here repping a 9 and targeting Brandon's range. And something I'm big on with my students is, I see people bluff incorrectly often, meaning they typically bluff out of emotion, out of necessity, fear, stuff like that, right? But what I want to see you guys do is I want to see you bluff based on what you can represent and what you think you're trying to make your opponent fold, right? And Bryn did that perfectly. He did both of those very well. He represented a 9, and he felt that Brandon's range was mostly comprised of aces, kings, queens type stuff that he could make fold with a huge bet. So Bryn goes ahead and basically bets 150,000, putting Brandon to the test here. Brandon hems and haws for a few minutes and then finds the fold. So Bryn, sure enough, does scoop this pot. And someone said something after it. I believe Dwan says immediately after the hand, I would have called that one. I just didn't believe Bryn. So interesting. You got to makes you wonder if Dwan has some sort of read on Bryn right now. So looking forward to seeing those two battle a little bit next week and seeing the final episode with this lineup. Pretty cool to get high stakes poker back. Been enjoying watching it like you guys, and I have enjoyed doing these videos each week to recap the best hands. So tune in next week and we will check out the final episode and then look forward to the lineup of new talent afterward. Best of luck this week, guys. And as always, check out the Elite Rounders YouTube channel for more of our free content that's coming out every week. Take it easy, guys. Good luck at the tables.